Hi everyone, we're back for a brand new week on 67 Hail Hail. We've got the weekly Monday roundup for you today with me, Hamish Carton. So consign that daft weekend to your distant memory because we're only looking forward. Well, that's not strictly true actually, because I do want to just briefly go back and mention that October was an incredible month for the 67 Hail Hail YouTube. Despite basically the whole first half of the month being taken up by an international break, which obviously slows down things because Celtic aren't playing, it was still one of our best months ever, and it wouldn't be possible without any of you wonderful people subscribing, liking, commenting, even just viewing our videos. So genuinely from the bottom of my heart, really appreciate all the support, and I know the same goes for all the other guys associated with the channel as well. One of those very guys, John McGinley, joined me last night as we did what we're now calling 67 Hail Hail Live Sunday. It's not going to be every Sunday, but occasionally me and John, and maybe in future guests, will get together and just have a discussion about what's going on at Celtic. Obviously, these videos with just me sometimes lack a bit of discussion because it's quite hard to have a discussion with just one person, although I do sometimes try. But yeah, if you're more up for discussion type videos, then check out that video from last night. It should be up there. As far as today's video is concerned, we have got a fair bit to cover. The first bit of news is an update on Carl Starfelt. He limped off midway through the second half of the Livingston game on Saturday. He has given an update to Swedish outlet Aftonbladet. Just the usual apologies for butchering that. Starfelt expects to be out for, quote, a couple of weeks. So it very much seems like he's in the same boat as Tom Rogic. He is obviously going to miss Thursday night. He's going to miss Dundee as well on Sunday. Then we go into the international break, and you would certainly hope that both players would be back for the first game after the international break, which is a pretty big one, the semi-final of the League Cup at Hampden against St Johnstone. In terms of what Celtic do in the intervening period at centre-back, really only get two options at the moment, I think, with Christopher Julian still being a fair bit away from making his return. We could do what we did on Saturday and play near Beaton at centre-back. I think it made sense on Saturday because we didn't really have much, if any, defending to actually do, and Beaton was effectively just another ball carrier in that game. Or we can play Stephen Welsh at centre-back, and I think given that our next two games are both away from home, Thursday especially is going to be a pretty tough game. It always is in Europe against Ferencvaros. I would certainly be a fan of putting Stephen Welsh back in the team. The only wee concern I would have is that we haven't seen Stephen Welsh playing for Celtic since the last time we played Livingston prior to Saturday, the 1-0 defeat in West Lothian. So he's not had any Celtic game time at all since then. I think he played one game for Scotland's under-21s. Would he be ready to make that immediate impression on Thursday? It's a gamble, but I guess that's just where we are at right now. So that's kind of it for actual Celtic team news at the moment, and I don't really want to spend too long chatting about the game on Saturday or even what's coming up this week at this stage. I think there's plenty of time to do the latter, and we've covered the former in two videos over the weekend. So what I want to actually do with today's video is chat a little bit about the Fans Forum that took place last week. Now, me and John touched on an aspect of this on last night's video, namely the fact that Celtic aren't going to give Rangers any tickets for the derby at Celtic Park on January the 2nd. That was probably the headline thing to come out of last week's meeting, but there was far more stuff if you look under the surface. I think that's the saying. First of all, I want to just kind of outline what the Fans Forum is, because I'll be honest, I kind of heard of it last week, and obviously you have a rough idea of what it is, but you know, why is it a thing and how long has it been a thing for? It's a series of meetings. I think they aim for 3 per season, although it's sometimes just 2, where Celtic, the club, is basically held to account by the fans about matters of importance. Now, Celtic's version was formed in 2017 after a resolution was passed in Celtic's 2016 AGM. The most recent one took place last Thursday, with the one prior to that taking place in May. So it's not really that regular. There's certainly a few months between the meetings at all times. Now, Celtic usually post the minutes from these meetings on their website. They're hidden away somewhere, you kind of have to search for them. However, they haven't quite got round to doing the ones from last Thursday's meeting yet. So the information that I'm relaying on this video is actually taken from Ginty1888 on Twitter. Now, he's part of the Cynic, you've probably heard of him, and he's heavily involved in the fans' forums. He, I think, gathers in questions from Celtic fans and puts them to Celtic, and then, as if he hasn't done enough, he then relays all the information on Twitter for people like me to scoop up and bring to you. So he's done a lot here. You can read all about the meeting in a nice thread on his Twitter, as I say, at Ginty1888. But this is what I have taken from his various tweets. So first of all, it's worth saying the meeting was a hybrid meeting. That means that some of it was in person, some of it was over Zoom. Celtic's acting chief executive, Michael Nicholson, was one of the club representatives that took part in the meeting. So some of the issues discussed are pretty minuscule, others are potentially a lot bigger. So we'll just kind of delve into it and see what we can take away from it. Some of the early issues discussed were the club's trip to Dubai at the start of the year. The club kind of palmed that one off, said they apologised at the time, gave it the old spiel about government guidance changing and all that kind of thing. There was then a question about face masks being worn at games. For anyone who hasn't been at Celtic Park this season, basically no one wears face masks at all. It's just not a thing that people are doing, rightly or wrongly. There was a question on whether Celtic could do more to convince people to wear face masks. Could they have players sending out messages explaining why it's a good idea? The club said they would look into that. There was also chat about improving facilities in the main stand. Now, I think, and I obviously wouldn't be aware of this, but I think the female facilities in particular seem to have major problems in terms of being outdated and just not particularly good. Catering as well, seemingly an issue in the main stand. So it seems like the club are aware of the issues in the main stand, but that they're not a priority right now, that the club's priority is very much on what happens on the pitch and improving the team after the pandemic. Again, rightly or wrongly, have your own opinions on it, but it seems like it's not a priority to improve what is a pretty kind of old main stand at this stage. Now, moving on to something that is certainly very relevant right now with the COP26 UN conference taking place in Glasgow, with all or most of the world's major leaders right as I speak. Celtic outlined their green credentials in a presentation during the Fans Forum last week. Now, some of the key findings, the club say they've invested £600,000 on energy-saving grass glow lights. Now, try saying that after a few Guinness. They say that 25% of current club cars are electric. The club are working towards 70% recycling levels. They're currently at 50%, and they also have a target of net zero by the year 2040. Now, further to that, Celtic say they spent a 14-hour match day observing and learning from Tottenham Hotspur, who are the greenest club in the English Premier League. Spurs built a new stadium a couple of years ago. They are the role models in greenness right now, so it's encouraging to see Celtic are looking to learn from them. Finally, the club say that Glasgow City Council are looking to reduce matchday car traffic. One fan question related to that actually suggested that train tickets should be free alongside match tickets, kind of like they do in Germany. As a guy who travels to Celtic Park by train for most games, I would certainly be a fan of that. And if it reduces the amount of cars going to Celtic matches, then, you know, that's certainly good. The Celtic Foundation then delivered a presentation. They gave some details on the food bank collection that took place around the recent St Johnstone home game. They said they received lots and lots of food, and also £6,000 were donated on top of all the food bags that we saw. So great there. Their Christmas appeal will launch on Saturday, which happens to be Celtic's birthday, if there is such a thing. That also means that the Christmas ad isn't far away, and visions of our glorious leader Ange in a full Santa costume It's just going to happen, isn't it? Moving on, and the club say they've still not got a green light to redevelop Barrowfield, the old training ground. We covered that, I think, a couple of weeks, if not months ago. They say a share issue might be needed to raise funds for that. So it seems like there isn't an awful lot of money going around at Celtic at the moment, certainly to spend on redeveloping the infrastructure at the club. It seems very much like we're talking about improving the team being the only real thing that money's going towards at the moment. Maybe if you try and win the league and get Champions League money next season, that could really help with that sort of thing. Some more general questions. There was one about referees getting worse and the club needing to take a public stand. The club say they are watching, they are aware of this. They lobbied hard for VAR, and this is interesting. They are hoping that VAR will start next season. That's exactly the point I made, I think, on Friday's video, when the Daily Mail report suggested that it wouldn't be till after the Qatar World Cup. Nope, let's get it in for next season, and it's good to see the club being positive about that as well. So if you're in any doubt, Celtic are for VAR. Dom Mackay was then spoken about. They mentioned in a question the fact that he spoke about modernisation of the club. Where is that, is the question that was put to Celtic. Celtic gave the usual stock answer that they're always looking to improve and move forwards. Okay. Other key points, as we already covered, Rangers won't have an away allocation for the derby taking place on January the 2nd. The focus from the club right now very much seems to be on the playing squad, as I say, with other issues like the main stand put on the back burner following the pandemic. That's kind of it. Lots of positive stuff there from the club. Hopefully they're not just paying lip service to the support. Hopefully they follow through with these things. And yeah, I guess it's just nice to have a bit of information on that kind of thing. A big thanks to Ginty1888 for covering that and letting other fans know what happened. Now, other news, former Celtic favourite, I'll call him favourite, he's not quite a legend, he's not even a great, he's a favourite, Peter Grant. He's been sacked by Dunfermline Athletic. They're bottom of the championship with 7 points from 12 games, and they're actually the only club in the whole SPFL not to have won a game this season. Now, Celtic are in Budapest on Thursday night. I hear that CNN are covering the game and have just set up stall in Vienna. No, in all seriousness, we are going to build ahead to this game. From tomorrow onwards, we're also going to have a big preview on Wednesday. It's interesting because it is 8 p.m. on Thursday night. Now, I don't know the last time we had an away Europa League game at 8 p.m. It's usually the early slot, the 5:45 slot. So it's going to be a little bit different this Thursday, but I think it kind of makes for an even more exciting evening. We, as I say, are going to be building ahead to it big time. In terms of what's actually coming on the channel this week, there is so much happening. Previews and reactions to both Ferencváros and Dundee games. We're also due to have Scott McDonald on the channel at some stage, perhaps even tomorrow, and of course much more. If there's any breaking news stories, we will cover them on the channel and online at 67hailhail.com. Just on the topic of Scott McDonald, if any of you are watching this and have a question you'd like to ask Scott McDonald, or you'd like me to ask Scott McDonald, whether it be to do with his Celtic career, you know, a historical memory, or anything to do with the current first team, then just drop it below in the comments here, and I'll do my best to pick out the best ones and ask them to Scott when he next speaks to us, hoping it will be tomorrow. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this, you haven't done it yet, it's always massively appreciated by all of us here at 67 Hail Hail. And yeah, we're back tomorrow.